What's up everybody? I hope you're doing well. I'm extra excited for today's video because I'm gonna take a look at your websites and I'm gonna give you some feedback. It was a total of 45 therapists who posted their websites in response to my Instagram stories saying, yeah, sure, you can take a look at my website and post publicly about it, which is a really vulnerable thing. So thank you for submitting your websites. I think this is enough websites to make a little series out of this. So I'll just kind of get started and go through as many as makes sense for this video, and I'll come back to some more at a future time. So for today's purposes, I'm just going to be looking at 4 categories of feedback. First, I'm going to look at the 5-second rule, which I've talked about in videos about websites before. The 5-second rule is not my own term. It's a term from business internet marketing land, where basically the question is, within the first 5 seconds of landing on someone's website, can you tell what this website's about? And the second piece I'm gonna give feedback on is trust building. So assuming, I'm a potential client looking for a therapist like you, or maybe a group practice like yours, how can I know that I can trust you? And I'm gonna look for clues to kind of signal to me that I can trust you. The third piece that I'm gonna look for feedback on is, can you help me specifically? So not just you're a trustworthy person in general, but like you can help me with my problem. And the fourth part of feedback that I'm looking at just for today's structure is it easy for me to find what the next steps are? Is it obvious within your website what the next step is for me to go ahead and pursue that? Do I need to call you or email you or whatever it is? So that's what we're gonna focus on for today. Of course, if I see little tidbits here or there that stand out that are kind of outside of this specific rubric, I will offer that feedback as well. Okay, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the first website. I've just got my little list here. We'll go ahead and click on it. Okay, 5-second rule, let's see. So I probably spent about 10 seconds looking at this page, and I'm getting all kinds of kind of holistic, integrative vibes. The actual website name has integrative in it, Integrative Psychological right here at the top, and then I'm seeing the word holistic. So as far as this first piece of feedback, the 5-second rule, A+ on like, I definitely know that this is a holistic, integrative mind, body, soul, spirit type practice. The feedback I would give is for this kind of chunk of paragraph right here. I love this paragraph, and I think it might do better in a different location on the website, perhaps just below the fold. So when I use that phrase, above the fold, I'm talking about everything that lives above this line right here, so that when you open a website, anything that you have to scroll down to see is considered below the fold. We want to keep everything above the fold pretty streamlined and something that you can generally digest within about 5 seconds. So I do need a few more than 5 seconds to read this paragraph, and as much as I like it, it might feel like a lot of information in my first 5-second rule approach. An alternative could be a one-liner as kind of a subheading right here, like a sentence-long one-liner that that kind of focuses on building trust or on who the practice serves, if there's information about that. Okay, so the second piece that I'm looking for is trust building, and generally when I think of trust building, I'm looking both at the homepage, usually scrolling down looking for the about section, which I am seeing a nice little about type summary, and also clicking on the about section itself. Okay, so some thoughts after looking at this section of the homepage and also clicking through the about page. I feel like there could be a bit more, and it's always a question of what trust building fits best for you and your practice, but often it can look like at least some amount of self-disclosure, meaning what is it about you, your story, your passions, your experience that make you the person that I might consider coming to and kind of pouring my heart out to say, yeah, I think I can trust you with whatever it is that I'm bringing to therapy. So Dr. Kateřina Zemánková, hopefully I'm saying your name correctly, shares a bit about their experience and what their passions are. I don't see too much information here about why this is so much of their passion. So the feedback I'd have here for Dr. Zemánková is if you could answer the question of, why are you passionate about working with individuals looking for a holistic approach? What is it about that holistic approach that you're so passionate about? Is there some piece of your journey that contributed to that, or your perspective on mental health, well-being, etc., that made you so passionate about that. I'm sure there's a story, and whatever amount of that feels appropriate to share within healthy boundaries and all of that could be really helpful to building trust. All these other pieces on the About page are valuable as well. We can bump our credentials, our experiences, things like that a little bit further down the page. Okay, so the follow-up question that I have after that is, can you help me with my specific concerns? And I'm already seeing here on the About page, if we scroll down, Dr. DePinna says, I work with clients that identify with the following, and we see anxiety, depression, relationship, attachment, etc. So there's a few different items in here, and let's say if I were dealing with any one of these items, we might say, oh, perfect, they help with this need. Maybe I might click over to the services page. Okay, so it looks like Dr. DePinna arranged the services pages by individual therapy, professional learning, and consulting, which is very useful to know that they offer all these different things. It's not just all in the umbrella of, say, individual therapy, for example. I wonder if there's a way to organize this so that for folks who are coming in for each of these items, they can learn a little bit more of, can you help me with my thing? Because let's say if I'm looking for individual therapy, I might be wanting to know, okay, what about me with my anxiety, or these other pieces that you named in here? I'd love to know more about those services that you offer. Now, there's a few ways you can play this, because not all of your services are therapy services here. That's just one of the services. So you could make your services a drop-down menu where one says individual therapy, one says learning, professional learning and wellness workshops, and another says consulting. And then on each page, you kind of fill out more details. You could also consider having different sections on your navigation menu, hopefully without it getting too overcrowded up here, so that maybe one navigation menu item says individual therapy up here, and it becomes a drop down where we can see each of the different areas of specialty. I have anxiety, relationship issues, whatever other pieces were popping up. So I can see my need pop up in that drop down and go, oh good, Dr. DePinna helps with this thing that I'm looking for help with. Let me click on that and have a lot more information about how they help me navigate through that thing. And then you could have a separate menu item up here that's referencing consulting and professional services, or however you want to title it, that's addressing these other items, and that could be its own drop-down menu where one says professional learning and wellness workshops and the other says consulting, and you can fill those out. So that brings us to the fourth piece of our structure, and that's, is it obvious what the next steps are here? And I usually like to look for it in a few places. I want to see, is it available somewhere within each page? Meaning if I scroll down, is there somewhere that says get into, so here I see it, get in touch, which I assume takes me to the same contact page here. Yes, it does. And it is helpful to have what we call a call to action on every single page. Get in touch. Okay, it looks like that's at the bottom probably of every single page. Yes, it is. And they all take us to the same contact page. Totally makes sense. And it seems very clear. Okay, perfect. Next steps. Use the form below to schedule a free 15-minute phone consultation. It's simple, but it's really helpful to tell people, here's what happens next. If you want to learn more, I offer a free 15-minute phone consultation. Here's how to go about scheduling it. So Dr. DePinna did this part perfectly. Thank you, Dr. DePinna, for offering your website. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Excuse me if I mispronounce anyone's name. I know I could do like a deep dive on each individual website, but I want to make sure I get to a number of websites in one video, so let's move on to the next one. Okay, so let's start with some feedback on the 5-second rule question. Can I tell what this website's about within the first 5 seconds without scrolling further down the page? And it looks like for OK Minds Counseling, the approach here is starting with this trust building piece. So these kinds of bullet points are like, are you feeling stuck in this way? Are you not sure how to move forward? This kind of, are you needing help with this or that type question is a great place to build trust and start to identify how a particular practice might be able to help you. But I do have to kind of scroll a little bit to know what this practice is about. So I think as I scroll down here, this piece right here at the end is kind of what I would hope to see more highlighted somewhere up top, big letters, and to save all of this language for further down the page, put it in the services page, so that I know, okay, it looks like from this sentence here that this practice focuses on working with young adults and emphasizes on finding meaning, finding purpose, improve their relationship with themselves and others. So a lot of kind of identity formation for young adults. If there's any way to kind of say, it could be something as simple as, text that says supporting young adults transitioning into adulthood, or making a smooth transition into adulthood, or whatever phrasing kind of fits the brand of this practice. I would want to see text that kind of emphasizes that. Okay, so let's move on to the trust building piece. Well, I can kind of already answer this without scrolling around because the trust building piece is right here. Already right at the beginning, I would just move it to it could just be literally right here, a little bit further down. We could also put it in a services page, which I assume might be this online therapy section. So as we scroll down the about page into this sort of highlight reel of who Dr. Delgado is. Well, first we learn that this is Dr. Janice Delgado, and a nice picture. Again, good job on the pictures, and enough information to kind of round out what we're already learning, that Dr. Delgado works with young adults. A little information here as well about who Dr. Delgado helps, client-centered, trauma-informed. That is getting a little bit jargony, especially for only maybe 2-3 sentences in, but even though it's jargon, we can kind of get an idea. Client-centered, trauma-informed. Even if you've never heard those phrases before, you kind of have a sense of what they might be about, loosely. And also this little piece. My goal is to help them find new ways to perceive old situations and create a bridge towards resilience. Now, here's a little tidbit. When you're speaking about the folks that you work with, if you can use the word you instead of them, that's just one little kind of psychological way to build trust. Like, I'm talking to you, person on my website. So if anywhere that you have on your website, I help my clients, I help them. If you can change it to, I help you, my goal is to help you work through it. That just little shift in language can make a big difference in helping to build trust. And then looking at Dr. Delgado's about page, we see a little bit of the same sentences here and then a continuation. Here I'm seeing a little bit more jargon, which I have some jargon on my website too. I just generally like to kind of bump it a little bit further to the bottom, unless you're marketing your services to therapists or you're getting your referrals primarily from therapists who might be using jargon search terms when they're looking for a referral. Like, we're looking for someone who's an EMDR specialist or whatever it might be. Then you can put the jargon on your website towards the top. So I would bump this type of stuff, emotion focus, interpersonal, psychodynamic, I would bump it further towards the bottom and put things like this more towards the top. I believe in the importance of creating safe spaces and meaningful relationships for growth, and this is so useful. Therefore, you can expect a warm, judgment-free space when meeting with me. And then we get into a little bit of experience and credentials, specialties, things like that. My suggestion here to just enhance what's already here is to expand a bit more on this part in the about section. First of all, good job using the word you here, but I'd want to expand on things like, why is it so important for you to offer a warm, judgment-free space? What is it about your experience, your life, your story that makes that so valuable to you? How do you go about creating that kind of a space? Those are some things that could really help build even more trust with potential clients. Okay, so let's continue on. The next piece that I want to look at is, can you help me? Well, let's go ahead and click through to this online therapy page, see what we find. Okay, I thought maybe the online therapy tab would be kind of like a services page, but it looks like it's speaking more directly to kind of FAQ. Here's what happens next if you're interested in online therapy. I do remember here in the about page, there was a little bit of specifics here. My areas of interest include, and it's kind of a bullet point list. I just realized too, going back to the homepage, when you scroll down towards the bottom, there's I think the same list of bullet points. My feedback here is if there's any way to streamline this list to something in the realm more of like 3 to capping at like 5 items on the list, even if you have more items on the list, could make it a little more streamlined, a little less overwhelming. I know that's hard to do because it could feel like you're leaving out things that are so important to you, but it also really helps the folks who are coming in with that specific thing feel so much more like you're the person who can help them. One strategy here is to have a blog section and just have different blogs for each of these different items and kind of posting to those different categories. That can often be a way to allow yourself to speak to all the different things that you're interested in without feeling confined to a narrow niche. Okay, and the last piece of feedback is it obvious what the next steps are? So obviously we have right here at the top, book an appointment. Yes, so it takes us to a booking page. And to be honest, I'm not familiar with Headway, but it definitely has information about Dr. Delgado's booking. And here's a little tidbit. We're going to have a quick phone consultation. So we already kind of have a heads up. It's a quick phone call. And here we can see that it's 15 minutes long. And I love that you can just go ahead and book it straight away. Okay, I can't believe I've already been filming for 45 minutes and I feel like I'm just getting started. So let's do a couple of more at least for today's video. Let's use the 5-second rule here. I can see clearly that this person is a child and family therapist. Of course, here's the picture of the child with probably a family member, we assume, in the picture. I think it could be enhanced just a little bit more. Is there a phrase or a sentence that just acknowledges how you're unique and different from, let's say, all the other child and family therapists? Because maybe I want a child and family therapist who specializes in a certain age group or a certain need or a certain type of issue, or maybe there's a few issues but there's an overall approach that I think would just level up your game even more. Okay, next let's move on to the trust building piece. I'm going to scroll through the homepage and the about page to see what I find. Okay, the first thing I noticed as I scroll down is I think everything on the website is in both English and Spanish. So that already like instantly creates like, oh, if I want somebody who either speaks Spanish fluently, if I'm speaking Spanish as my first language, like that's gonna build trust right away. But even if I'm not necessarily practically needing someone who speaks Spanish per se, it can also communicate something about this therapist's values that is significant, and maybe potentially about some of their background. There's a curiosity, like I want to know more about this therapist's story, and there might be potential connection points, especially if like some of my demographics align with the therapist. And then if we click over to the About section and scroll down, then we can learn a little bit more. And Reina Orellana, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, excuse me if I'm not, says a little bit about their license. And we do get to know that they're Salvadorian, first-gen college graduate. I mean, I'm already kind of building a sense of trust. Like these are just those little tidbits, like not everything about somebody, but little tidbits say, oh, I'm seeing a little window into who you are. And the picture. I would definitely make your picture bigger if you can, and also have your picture on your homepage. I mean, it could be right here instead of this picture, or down here, you know, and somewhere. I want to see who you are where I can, and have that picture be a little bigger. And as far as trust building, I hear my passion is work with people to help improve their lives. I think one way to enhance your about page is to maybe be a little bit more specific, because hopefully, fingers crossed, this is every therapist's passion. And so it's helpful to know, like, well, what's your unique passion? What's your unique take on that passion? How might I, as a unique individual, come to trust you over, say, any other therapist out there? And then they go on to name some of their credentials and therapeutic approach and some of the places that they've worked at as well. They start to acknowledge something of interest to me here. So they say, I've exposed myself to different age groups because I recognize the impact our journey through life can have on our psychological well-being and our quality of life. I'm excited to take a deep dive into your story and work together to reach your goal. I feel like there's probably more in there that's wanting to be rounded out, expanded, probably bumped closer to the top here about Reina. That I'd love to hear more. And then, of course, all of it is in Espanol as well. Love that. Okay, and now we're going to follow up with this question. Can you help me? So if I'm coming to your website and I'm saying, okay, I have a specific need or list of needs I need help with, can you help me specifically? Let's look at treatment specialties. Okay, so I'm noticing that we're hearing that there's child and adolescent therapy with caregiver participation referenced here, and then there's therapy for adults, and then the specialties are listed down here. So I think the feedback that I would have in this question of, how can I know whether you can help me, again, is, how can we figure out which of this list of specialties kind of captures what you're most interested in, what you're most excited about. Maybe some of these might kind of go together, like parenting and behavioral issues, for example. I can imagine those might kind of go together, like how do you parent a child when they're having behavioral issues, and motherhood. So I'm seeing kind of things that might go together, and that maybe there might be a way to lump them into categories and say, okay, my specialties include working with children and families who are having trouble navigating behavioral issues and how to parent well, mother well, in that context. And I also work with adults who have a history of trauma and are experiencing depression, anxiety as a byproduct, for example. And if we can clump things together like that, it can make it a lot easier for people to understand whether you can help me. And that way, again, I suggest creating a drop-down menu here of treatment specialties, just so that, maybe one is for child/family therapy, and another one might be for individual therapy. Separating it out like that is great for SEO, but it also makes it a lot more user-friendly so that I can know, okay, this is what I'm here for. Let me click on that. Okay, and the next steps piece, first let me check the home page and see if there's a place I can click through. Contact me, perfect. Okay, so one piece that I like to say is if there's any way to make the contact me a little bit bigger or turn it into a button, like I could see if you had the option to like have a contact me button right here, you could still have it in English and Spanish, but have it be a little bit larger. That's just like one way to make your call to action a little smoother. So it takes us to a contact me page, and it doesn't necessarily say what to expect is going to happen. Like, let's say if I filled this out and clicked submit, does that mean I'm signing up for an appointment, or I'm just asking a question? What do I expect from you? How long does it take to hear from you? Or just any information of like, contact me for a free 15-minute phone consultation, or whatever your process is, could just make it a lot smoother. Okay, this next website, they left a little note in their response to my stories that the website is in Czech. So let's see if there's an option for me to translate it, and we'll give it a try. So again, let's take everything with a grain of salt here, because who knows what Google Translate did here, and also kind of the cultural nuances that, like, I might hear something one way in English and it might mean something different in a different language. But all of that said, let's take a look at the 5-second rule. So when I hover over this, it says growing up with therapy. So just kind of looking at this first bit above the fold, it's feeling quite broad. Like, this could be any therapist's webpage, like a place for your growth, and then your name. I haven't necessarily landed on like what this person's niche is, or what they're about, what their emphasis is, what their approach is, something that's kind of branding related. Like, here's what sets me apart from all the other therapists. Here's what I focus on. I emphasize my specialty, something in that realm. That doesn't mean that this person doesn't have an emphasis. I just haven't been able to find it yet. Let's take a look at the trust building question. I'm going to click the About Me. Okay, so this is the About page, and it says their name and a bit of credentials, and a little bit of emphasis. Sorry, Google Translate pops up with that window. I focus on children, adolescents, and young adults. Oh, that's I think more information than the first page. I'll be happy to accompany you in sharing your topics. And we get a little bit more information about credentials and training. So I think one way Kateřina could enhance their page is to say a bit more on why children, adolescents, and young adults. Why is this something that you're interested in or passionate about? What is it about your story, your experience that's led you into this emphasis, to kind of help folks build trust with you? Okay, and let's move on to the question, like, can you help me with my specific concerns or areas that I need support? So let me click on the psychotherapy page. Okay, here we're getting that reiterated psychotherapy for children, adolescents, and young adults. Okay, I'm seeing some of the trust building actually come up right here. So some of this language is really that kind of trust building language. They're saying saying, okay, maybe you're going through a tough time, or it's too much for you, and all of that. That's really trust building to say, oh yeah, that's me. I'm going through a tough time right now. And what I would love to see is a little bit more of expanding on kind of specifically what kinds of tough times, what are some things that someone might have tried that haven't worked, or things you're afraid of when you're afraid to contact a therapist for these reasons, or maybe you tried therapy before it didn't work out for these reasons. And then the follow through of, here's how I can help you. Here's how I do it differently. Here's something about my approach with young adults and children to say, oh, good. Kateřina, you're going to be the one that helps me with this situation that I'm in. It does look like this therapist has their specialties primarily listed on their homepage here, and we're kind of hitting this kind of similar piece of feedback I've given, I think, on most of the websites I've seen so far, where the list is getting a little bit longer. So we're hitting kind of 6 areas of specialty, and that can start to be hitting that point where it starts to feel like, even if I'm coming for low self-esteem, it's kind of blended into a mix of things. And if there is a way to kind of niche it down a little bit more, or kind of, again, combine some of these together. Okay, and this last question about next steps. Let's see, we have contact. I assume that's the next step. So similar feedback, if there's any way to say like what somebody might expect if they're trying to book an appointment. Now, it might just not be visible because we see here I'm not currently accepting new clients, so it might be it's not an option to book a psychotherapy with me, and there might be more information if this person was accepting new clients. But it is just helpful to say, fill out this form and I'll reach out to you. We can schedule a 15-minute phone consultation or whatever it is that you offer. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can squeeze in one more into this video, and hopefully I can make this not too long in the edit. All right, so 5-second rule. Let's see what I see. Okay, so just using my 5-second rule lens here, looking at the above the fold of the page, I can see that this therapist is based in Maine. And aside from that, I'm not getting a whole lot of information, and it looks like some of the information is starting to fall below the fold. But that said, let's see if we can kind of figure out in this first little blurb here what this therapist is about in their practice. I'm getting kind of a generic sense of there's maybe a list of specialties, trauma, anxiety, depression, or your relationship. I'm not sure necessarily if this therapist is saying that these are their kind of 4 areas of specialty: trauma, anxiety, depression, and the relationship, or if they're just kind of naming broad categories, or if these are your specialties, to kind of come back to this above the fold 5-second rule to somehow write out in bigger letters, just kind of focusing on trauma, anxiety, depression, and relationships somehow in the text that's showing up right up here at the top. Oh, that's interesting. So here I'm seeing next steps, start therapy for anxiety and depression. So that's my first clue. Does this therapist specialize in anxiety and depression? If so, I would definitely bump that right up here. Therapy for anxiety and depression, specializing in anxiety, depression, somehow putting it on the top of the page. Okay, so next let's move on to the trust building piece. I see already a picture here. It'd be super nice to have a little blurb with your name and maybe a little clickable link. At least I assume that this is a picture of the therapist, so that would be helpful to know. If this is you running this practice, go ahead and put your name and a little blurb and then say like learn more about me or something like that. Ooh, okay, I think this is the first time we're seeing your name. So Derek Garrett. And Belle, I love the picture of your dog. Okay, so meet Derek. He is the guy you will be working with at New Perspectives Counseling Services. It looks like this is a solo practice. Hello, Derek. And one little tweak I would shift is instead of saying meet Derek, he is the guy, to shift things to me. I'm Derek. Hi, I'm Derek. I'm the guy you'll be working with. I can tell that there's kind of your personalized language in here. Maybe this is how you speak. Hey, I'm that guy you're working with. You got your dog, super cute. So just kind of shifting the language to like, hey, it's me here. Not somebody else writing on my behalf, even if it is someone writing on your behalf, to go ahead and use the me language to help somebody build trust. Oh, here we go. We switched my name. See, I already feel, hi. I feel like, hi, Derek. I see you. I'm listening to you speak now. Okay, I have enjoyed reading this about section. Derek shares a little bit about themselves, a little bit about what to expect. And I feel like Derek is talking like how they talk to their clients. And some of these things can be really subtle. Like they're saying, I have learned that humor and authenticity, that phrasing, I have learned, like that's just like a little humanizing phrase that makes me go, oh, okay, Derek is someone who reflects on things, learns over time. So I really like your about section. Okay, and let's move on to the question about, can you help me with my specific needs, my specific issues? Let's go to therapy services offered. Okay, cool. I know that you're accepting new clients. That's perfect. And we already have a call to action, schedule a free consult. That's great. Okay, so there's some pieces about kind of the layout and the design that are making it a little bit hard for me to know where to go, because I'm seeing individuals, couples, and group. I'm tracking with that. Now, there's a clickable link down here for individual therapy, which kind of naturally led me to think that there might be a link for each of these, but it's just on the one. And then as we scroll down, there's categories here. And I wasn't sure just by looking at it at a quick glance, is each of these related for individual therapy services? So I think there's probably something you could do here, Derek, to make it a little bit easier to navigate. Like if you're doing individual, couples, and group, are they all focused on these three categories, perhaps? If you are offering group therapy, is that something that I can see which groups you're offering maybe? Or if you're not offering groups right now, is there a wait list I can join or something like that? And maybe having a clickable link there. So I need a little bit of clarification, I think, to know exactly what kind of feedback to give you. A good way to think about it is, how do I help my ideal client get to the place on my website they need to get to in the fewest amount of clicks possible? Oh man, it got blurry again. I don't know how long my camera was blurry for, sorry. All right, and lastly, we're going to look at the next steps piece. So I'm seeing contact to start therapy here. I see the call to action here. Okay, so I'm scrolling through the contact page. There's a couple of available options for contact here. Initially, it's saying schedule your no strings attached consultation today, free. So there's a phone number, and Derek mentions that it's confidential and all of that. And there's a questions menu. So my suggestion would be to kind of streamline this. Of course, you can have your phone number on your website. So, do you want me to call you here? Are you hoping that I fill out your contact form? Or is it, I'm supposed to call you if I'm ready for a free consult, but if I have a question, I fill out the contact form? Things like that. Sometimes people get hung up on this, and it's already so stigmatizing and difficult for people to even think about reaching out to a therapist, that if there's any like little roadblocks on our websites, there are people who are likely to drop off along the way. So just making it as streamlined and clear as possible can help keep people from totally dropping off the map. Whew. Well, thanks for hanging with me. I hope it was helpful. I think at least one time, if not multiple times, my camera went out of focus. I'm aware I need to get a new camera. It's time. So thanks for hanging with me. Thank you so much to all of you for submitting your websites for me to look at. I only covered 5 today, so there's 40 to go. So you have a series to look forward to. Hopefully it's helpful. If I covered your website today, I sent you an email in your inbox with a little thank you. So just let me know if you didn't get that. And I hope it's clear as I give feedback that we're just talking about improving your websites, because your practice might already be amazing and full, and this is just enhancing what you already have. So you all are doing an amazing job, and I'm looking forward to continuing this series. And before we close, I'd like to thank TherapyNotes.com for sponsoring this video. TherapyNotes helps with scheduling, notes, and billing. They have a HIPAA-secure telehealth platform and so much more to help keep your practice running smoothly. If you'd like to check out TherapyNotes, you can get 2 months to try it for free with no commitment just by clicking the link in the description of this video.